Boker Tov, Shalom Aleichem, Yan Rabbanaka, Mitzvah. Welcome to my YouTube channel, featuring Japan leadership. Today, I'll be talking about leadership. The topic I'll be talking about is assessing leadership styles in an organizational context. Illustrated by Victor Dolwitz and Malcolm Higgs from the Henley Management College, Greenland, Henley on Thames, Oxfordshire, UK. So according to the abstract, purpose is to investigate the new leadership dimensions, questionnaires, RDQs, and related framework for assessing an individual's leadership style in relation to the context in which the leader works. 3 new LDQ subscales designed to measure organizational context, follow commitment, and leader performance in relationship between personality and leadership. Design and methodology research. Researchers report on LDQ data with a large sample of leaders and managers and from a range of public and private organizations. A style score was calculated and then related to data and respondents, biographical, job function, gender, sector, and nationality. So, introduction. Organizations and researchers have been obsessed over the last 4 decades of leadership in terms of deconstruct the phenomenon and universal set of measures. More recently, a dominant approach to studying leadership has emerged. This is based on the model of transformational leadership developed by Abbas and operationalized by Abbas and Malvolio. A strength of the model has been its distinction between sets of leadership's behaviors required in 2 distinct contexts. This paper builds on the literature on transformational leadership, explores and extends a range of contents. It presents a new framework for assessing leadership. Competencies from which style profiles are drawn and then linked to context in which the leader operates. Subscales also incorporated which can enable the user to review leader performance and commitment of the followers. Head title: A New Model of Leadership. Having reviewed the development of and the thinking of nature of effective leadership, and in particular having looked at the literature from sense-making rather than discovering perspective, a pattern is beginning to emerge. From this emerging literature, it's proposed that effective leaders are differentiated from leaders with the size of a relatively small range of skill or competence areas. Though in the way in which these skills and competencies are exercised is not prescribed, but is the function and underlying personality of the leader. Indeed, the combination is implied by Coffey and Jones. This relatively simple statement has significant implications for the way in which we view leadership, although it does challenge the view of some. Points out as becoming evident that leadership is personal. The personality of leaders play an important part in the exercise of congruent and underlying personality of the leader. Building on the view of possible to suggest a model that reflects the research and thinking of leadership emerging from a sense-making paradigm. The elements in this model explored briefly below. Number 1 is competence areas and vision. The ability to identify a clear future picture, which will inform the way we should redirect the efforts and utilize these skills. Engage, finding appropriate ways to ensure the individual to understand the vision, the hints, and make sure they can contribute. 3 is enable, acting on beliefs of talent and potential of individuals, creating the environment in which they can be released. 4 is inquire, being open to real dialogue with those involved in the organization, encouraging the frank debate of all issues. 5 is develop, working people to build their capabilities and help them make the envisioned contribution. 2 is personal characteristics. 1 is authenticity, being genuine, not attempting to play a role, not acting in a manipulative way. 2 is integrity, being consistent in what you say and do. 3 is will, a drive to lead and persistence to work towards a goal. 4 is self-belief, a realistic evaluation of the capabilities, a belief that you can achieve required goals. 5 is self-awareness, a realistic understanding of who you are, how you feel, and how others see you. Assessing leadership styles. This model allows for exercise leadership in different ways and thus will impact the organizational context and the way in which leadership is observed. Although the model is prescriptive, it does not appear to miss an important element of leadership. The literature on leadership has consistently ignored cognitive elements for the last few decades. This is due in part to dominance in quantitative studies and associated tendency not to measure cognitive elements in such studies. However, recently, an qualitative study of global leaders proposed that effective leadership required a combination of behavioral, cognitive, and personality factors. The suggestion does not make explicit whether the leader's ability to learn sets, or indeed if it's significant. In a study of change, leaders identified the significance of leader training. The issue sets up money messages that a leadership framework, combining cognitive, behavior, and personality, and leading factors may be useful in which one studies leadership. However, stated as earlier, it's clear that there's a dynamic relationship between the leaders and organizational context. It may be reasonable to see the organization's factors which affect on leadership, comprising strategy, culture, policies, and practices, as ability to learn on an organization. The relationship between leader and organization is potentially a dynamic one. For example, different organizational strategies may require changes in leadership between behaviors. However, it is feasible that as change in leadership behavior may lead to different strategic detail. In this instance, the changes in context requires changes in the way in which leaders operate the organization. Leadership styles and context. In leadership literature, there is an emerging conscious that is no single prescription for effective performance. The relationship between the approach of leaders with leadership style and context which they operate is seen as important. This is by no means a new thought and is rooted in contingency theory. However, more recently, the contextualization employed by the transformational school has moved from largely internal leader, following focus on broad and often external one. In particular, there is a increasing focus on the efficacy of different leadership behaviors in different contexts of change. Also, the first range of behaviors described as literature is usually grouped to see them in the three broad categories. One is goal-oriented. A set of behaviors in which leaders assist direction, behaves in a way that he or she perceives while directing others to achieve the key goals required to attain the performance required. This is not suggesting an authoritarian approach, but rather behaviors which are strongly leader-centric. Two is involving somewhat leaderless-centric set of behaviors. The carrier, the leader focus remains on providing instructions direction. Others are more human focus on involving others, both setting direction and to a large extent, determining how goals will be achieved. Number three is engaging leader behaviors in the category. The focus on facilitating others and achieving both nature of direction and means of achieving the necessary goals. The leader is not more concerned with developing the capability of others to achieve the lowest direction of the enterprise. Table 1 illustrates the way in which the research and writing of some authors working with contextualized leadership may be mapped out on these three categories. Doing on context, and particularly the context of change, transformational school, posit two distinct contexts, change and steady state. However, with the change literature, there is a diverse range of change contexts. Reviewing the range is feasible to identify the following key contextual variables. Magnitude and scale of change is 1. 2 is source of change, internal or external. 3 is impact of the change on others and business. And 4 is time scale and speed of change. Overall, it perhaps useful to consider the change context in terms of volatility and complexity and see it as a continuum rather than as another transformation score and bipolar variable. The relationship between leadership behaviors and change context is evident on the transformational score. However, until recently, empirical work has been conducted which related leadership behaviors to more elaborate organizational change context. Report the results of study over categories over 70 change stories from 10 organizations, which leadership behavior category was examined for effectiveness In a broad range of changed contexts, they found that any complexity in context is increased in the more facilitative style or leadership style necessary for success. A leader-centric or directive style is found to be inappropriate and effective in such contexts. However, such a style is found to be more common and indeed dominant in a relatively simple, straightforward context. From the above is a feasible to suggest a relationship between leadership style context along the lines presented in Table 2. So follow commitment and leader performance. The term organization commitment, OC, covers a range of effective factors, including followers, attachment, loyalty, involvement, identification in the organization, and some kind of factors related to, for example, understanding change and calculating benefits. Indeed, research studies have found it to be more important and fairly independent aspects of OC and attitudinal, effective, and rational calculative type. Found that quality of work experience is related to institutional effective types or interacting with effective leaders is likely to contribute to followers. From meta-analysis shows that various leaders' relations of followers such as leader consideration, communication, and participative behavior were tendencies of OC. Base and Alveolus questionnaire includes that 3 skills designed to measure outcomes specifically of followers. 1 is extra effort, 2 is leader satisfaction, and 3 is leader effectiveness. Since MRQ is 360 degrees instrument, data collected includes not only self-awareness but also assessments by others, especially subordinates, especially on those that have shown transformation leadership, is more highly correlated with these outcome variables that are transactional. Furthermore, management of exception and loss of behavior is found to be negatively related or not related. Results confirm that transformation leadership produces significantly greater OC amongst followers. Transactional also leads to significantly higher job performances of leaders. Next, this paper will describe various research findings and measurement intelligence. Senior management leaders' competencies have been developed in the framework for assessing an individual's leadership style in organization context, which concurs with conclusions drawn from the brief review of leadership literature above. Links between the leadership literature, EQ, IQ, and MQ competencies, is looking for more broadly at leadership, in particular, the future nature of leadership, the number of authors have identified, growing significance of emotional intelligence. In part, the shift the focus from the rational emotional aspects of leadership presents the continuation of treating counter more broadly and thinking in organization behavior and leadership. Indeed, although not explicitly surfaced, much of the literature transformation leadership implies that leaders may require emotional intelligence. The authors review of leadership literature above, from the transformation period onward, is focused on models that contain clearly defined behavioral constructs. On the basis of context analysis of the constructs, there has to be strong indications of linkage between leadership and emotional intelligence. Provided a map of some of the key leadership models and potential relationships and elements of emotional intelligence defined by Higgs and Delwitz. The key themes are propounded by eminent authorities on the subject of leadership reviewed above. The results show that the large majority of cells in the matrix are filled in the last one construct. EQ elements are when it appears to be least well covered, but still gain support from 3 authors. Dawitz and Higgs also conducted a similar mapping exercise on the key themes propounded in the same eminent authorities and the IQ and MQ dimensions required for the effective leadership. The results show that the large majority of cells in the matrix are filled by at least one construct. Based on Abolio and Metcalf, models provide support for all 8 IQ and MQ dimensions, while the lowest support provided by the Gopi and Jones model. However, the upper models have fewer constructs and certainly will provide of the right IQ and MQ dimensions. Critical analysis and judgment appears to be at least well covered, but nevertheless gain support from 3 authors. Barney-Douglas and Higgs linked the 15 dimensions made by the LDQ to the components of the emerging model of leadership, embracing both competencies and personal characteristics. They found that each moment was linked to at least one LDQ dimensions, and each dimension is linked to one component of emerging model, pattern analysis, and judgment. The results of pre-mapping exercises providing strong evidence to support the content validity of LDQ. The next section, dimensions will be described and the reliability, criterion, content, and construct validity of LDQ instrument to be presented. The leadership dimensions questionnaire. 2 part studies were conducted to refine the questionnaire using item analysis described by Douglas and Higgs. The final version of LDQ contains EQ items and 80 IQ and MQ items, 10 per scale, and refined from the original 125 trial items. The final version of LDQ contains 15 scales, titles, and short step and messenger pairs in Table 3. Scale score and biographical data. Douglas and Higgs analyzed scores in 15 dimensions in relation to the number of respondents, biographical variable age, level qualification, gender, and function. That's inapplicable. Might be applicable. However, there are exceptions had high scores in critical analysis. Judgment scale general managers had high scores, so there's a degree of professional qualifications, had lower scores in self-awareness. Age was significantly negatively correlated and for automations out of 15. So assessing leadership styles. We have intellectual dimensions versus IQ. A was critical analysis and judgment, a critical faculty that probes effects, identifies advantages and disadvantages, and discerns the shortcomings of ideas and proposals, makes sound judgment decisions based on reasonable assumptions and factual information, aware of the impact of any assumptions made. B is vision and imagination. Imaginative and innovative aspects of one's work, establish sound priorities and future work, clear vision of future direction, organizations that meet business imperatives, foresees of the impact of changes, no one's vision that reflects implementation issues and business realities. Strategic perspectives, see wider issues and important implications, explores wide range of relationships, spans short and long-term considerations, sensitive to impact of one's actions and decision across organization, identifies opportunities and threats, sensitive to stakeholders, leads an implication of external factors on decisions and actions. Next is managerial dimensions, MQ. D is resource management, plans ahead, organizes all resources and coordinates them efficiently and effectively, establishes clear objectives, commits long-term goals into action plans, monitors and evaluates staff's work regularly and effectively, gives sensitive, honest feedback. K is engaging communication, a lively and enthusiastic communicator, engages others and wins support, clearly communicates instructions, various staff, communication is tailored to the audience's interest and focus, communication style inspires staff and audience, conveys approachability and accessibility. Empowering is the next one. L gives staff autonomy, which permits them to do whatever they want, encourages them to take on personal, challenging, demand tasks, encourages them to solve problems, produce innovative ideas, proposal and develops a vision and broader vision, encourages critical faculty and broad perspective, encourages challenging of existing practices, assumptions, and policies. M is developing, believe others have potential to take on a more demanding tasks and roles, encourage them to do so, ensures direct reports have adequate support, develops and compare their competencies, invest time and effort on coaching so they can contribute effectively, develop themselves, identify new tasks and miles to develop other roles, based on critical feedback challenge are important. P is achieving, wanting to make a decision involving significant risk to change an advantage. Decisions are made on core business issues with a likely impact on success. Selects and exploits activities that result in greater benefits to the organization and its performance. Unwavering determination to achieve objectives and implement decisions. Next is emotional and social dimensions. E is self-awareness, awareness of one's own feelings, the capability to recognize and manage the way that one feels that they can control, the degree of self-belief in one's capability to manage one's emotions and control the impact in the work environment. EFP's emotional resilience, performs consistently in a range of situations under pressure, and adapts behavior appropriately, balances the needs of the situation, tasks with the needs and concerns of the individuals involved, retains focus in the course of action, and needs to results in the face of personal challenge or criticism. G's intuitiveness, arrives at clear decisions, drives the implementation. When presented with complete or ambiguous information, you can both rational and emotional and intuitive perception of key issues and their implications. H is interpersonal sensitivity, is aware of and takes account of needs and perceptions of others, deriving into decisions, proposing solutions to problems and challenges. Builds on this awareness and achieves the commitment of others, decisions and actions. Willingness to keep everyone's thoughts if possible. Solutions to problems, activities to listen to, and reflect on reactions and inputs from others. J is influence. To persuade others to change views based on understanding of the position and recognition of the need to listen to their perspective and provide rationale for change. N is motivation, drive energy to achieve clear results and make an impact. Balances short and long-term goals with the capability of pursuing defining goals in the face of rejection and questioning. Consciousness, the space key commitment to course of action in the face of challenge, to watch words and deeds, encouraging others to support the chosen direction, show a person commits to pursuing an ethical solution. In terms of reliability, the results of reliability analysis connected on 15 dimensions. It shows validity as well. And then I'll just skip down to the conclusion and make this video short, or you'll lose interest. The topic of discussion. According to authors Dulwich and Higgs, the final version of the Q has benefited from rigorous trials involving 2 pilot studies. The overall aim of having 10 items per scale is given broad coverage of the complex dimensions mentioned by the LDQ and at the same time produce respectable reliability coefficients. The authors have demonstrated constructed validity finding a large number of significant correlations between LDQ and personality characteristics. With the general finding, the managers high and relevant dimensions generally tend to be more extroverted, emotionally well adjusted, and especially have greater strategic perspective and consciousness. In addition, young adults studied construct and criterion validity in research based on personality data from the QPP, job points ratings, and neighbor offices. One important feature of the LDQ is able to relate profiles, scores across different dimensions to 3 different leadership styles. The relevance of each one is dependent on the context. The leadership exercise analyze of leadership styles using a reasonable close fit score. Showed a reasonable even level allocation across all the 3 styles. Furthermore, data on this paper has shown the styles are independent of all important biographical variables. Breakdown did not vary according to the gender, sector, function, or nationality of the respondent. Turning to personality and possible overlap between social and emotional EQ competencies from LDQ and FFM, personality factors were explored, whilst correlations between influence, FFM, agreeableness, between interpersonal sensitivity, FFM, agreeableness, and significant relationships between emotional resilience and emotional stability and consciousness, and reports and real meta-analysis of FFM show these factors have shown to predict job performance in a large number of studies. Therefore, any such overlap should help improve the criterion and validity of the LDQ. Of the results on the extroversion FFM, personality factor accounted for additional style variance and only to 1 style. Engaging furthermore, the FFM personality characteristics do not add increments of variance over above the LDQ dimensions. Moreover, concurrent study, which investigated the link between FFM personality factors and leadership performance, found that personality doesn't explain any additional variance out of key dimensions, with the later explained with the variance compared to personal factors alone. From the results, I would imply that personality is not a monitored variable between leadership competencies on the one hand and leadership style. Go to the conclusion. In this paper, the technical properties of LDQ has been summarized. The results of the study provide some support for its leadership assessment and development by identifying potential in both public and private sector organizations. These results suggest the selection of leaders and could become more accurate and suggest development actions contained in the LDQ report more focused and relevant. With more standardization data available based on sample more than 1,000 managers and senior officers, with 50% public statement and 4% female, the most produced constitute comprehensive sample middle and senior managers from around the world. A unique feature of LDQ is opportunity to provide rate profiles, the scores between 15 dimensions, the 3 different leadership styles, and to the degree of organizational volatility based on the leader. The relevance of the style is dependent on the context in which leadership is exercised. The context data is part 2 of the questionnaire provides a reliable measure to help respondents identify the style that is appropriate for the role in current organizational context. New subscales are to measure performance and point movement that produce the Researchisreported questionnaire. So that was the article I read from assessing leadership styles, in organizational context, and the purpose and investigate leadership dimensions, LDQ, and rate frameworks assessing leadership style in relation to context, so leader works. The three new LDQ subscales are to measure leadership context, like leadership performance, per personality leadership. That's what I got from the paper. It's a leadership style and your personality traits. So your personality traits makes you a leader. Leader likes to do the work, can handle pressure, and they can work well under pressure and work well as a team. So, not level for extra, Ilheim, kijk je